the goal of this tournament really is finishing top 5. I mean, you're after that classic berth from the get-go.
I got to get to 5th to go to the classic. And that's all I care. Just get there.
That's what kept me out of the classic. This river made me miss the classic 2 years ago. This is really last chance to make the classic for the 2006 season. You know, you got to let it all hang out.
I don't know if that's for the better or for the worse, but we're going to go find out. We're fishing for big fish. We're going for the win. We're going for the kill.
It has been a long and grueling season for the pros fishing the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail. And no matter what level you fished at during the year, there's probably only one reason you're here. This is it. The end of the trail, maybe, unless you can make something special happen here. This is the last chance to qualify for the Citgo Bassmaster Classic. Making the Classic means everything. It's the most important building block for a career, and it's the greatest stage in all of fishing. It's what you've worked for all year. And if you haven't made it yet, you try to be among the top 5 finishers here on the Alabama River. Those 5 qualify for the Classic. Welcome to the pressure. Welcome to the do or die. Welcome to the Open Championship.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail.
Hey, come along with us today. What an adventure we are going to have on the Alabama River. There it is right there in south central Alabama. It's where the Tallapoosa and the Coosa rivers come together just east of Montgomery. It flows past Montgomery as the Alabama River, and then, of course, on to Mobile Bay in Alabama. Very important river system, and this system is so important as a playing field today. We'll have more on that in just a second. But we got 90 guys. Think about it, 90 pros. This is their last shot at making the most important tournament of the year, the Citgo Bassmaster Classic. Only 5 spots available for 90 guys. You don't get much more drama than that. I'm Tommy Sanders along with Jerry McInnes, and one of our big players is going to be this river in the current in the Alabama River. Jerry, tell us how bass fishing and current come together.
Well, you know, yeah, we're on a river system. We're on the river below Lake Jordan. There's a dam up there. They can turn the water off at that dam, or they can really let it loose. So the guys almost have to have 2 game plans, because fish act different on higher water than they do when it gets calm. As a matter of fact, they're going to position themselves around a rock or a dike or a piece of brush differently if there's a lot of current as opposed to none at all. So 2 game plans. These guys, you know, as if there isn't enough for them to worry about, they have to have 2 game plans.
All right, somebody will have 2 game plans. So the water, the moving water, is going to be one of our big players. And today, for the first time, we're going to take our viewers under the water and show them something they've never seen before. Bass Research Technology. Why don't you tell us what those words mean?
Bass spotter. That's what we're after.
That's better.
And we're going to, well, actually, a couple weeks before the tournament, we went down to Catoma Creek, caught 3 bass, and tagged them with a device that allows us to track them. And we've tracked them from that point up to right now, and we're going to be able to show you exactly what these guys do. Tommy, it is really neat.
Somebody asking every tournament, where did the bass go? We may have some clues for you today. Let's get out on the water. Our second day of fishing is underway, and we're going to Matt Reed of Madisonville, Texas.
Come on, fish.
Watching Matt Reed's fishing from day number 2. There are 4 days of fishing in this tournament, 5 fish limit per day per angler. Those fish can be no less than 12 inches long.
And Matt will cover lots of water with a spinnerbait today. And by the way, there's around 100 miles on our playing field, and so far, no water movement.
Conditions are tougher right now today, I would say. I mean, just because of the lack of current. And it seems like they are going to bring it up. I don't know how much, but because it's starting to move some. But for what I'm doing, the conditions would be tougher today. This system is just really, everything relates on current.
Matt's co-angler today is Dal Cox from Tennessee, and what a process every one of these guys go through getting this far, Tommy.
Coming through the open divisions. Matt came through the Central Division. They're taking the top 25 guys from the Central, top 25 guys from the Southern Division, top 25 guys from the Northern Division, and the top 15 anglers from the Western Division. 90 anglers very hungry for those top 5 spots when they start this tournament.
And if you've noticed, Matt Reed can hum and catch fish at the same time, and that fish really bumps him up the ladder.
Now the first look at our day 1 leader, and what a day 1 for Mike McClellan, 17 pounds, 12 ounces.
I really feel good. I mean, you know, it's good coming into a tournament like this on the second day, having a little bit of a cushion, it takes a little pressure off knowing that I don't have to catch a 10 or 11 pound bag just to stay in the top 10, which is the goal today.
Stay in the top 10 on day number 2 because the field gets cut to 10 anglers after the second day of fishing. And on day 3, it's cut down to 5. And those top 5, the 5 anglers going to the Classic.
And obviously they're fishing for bass, but they're fishing for 2 different types of bass. The most common one is always a largemouth, but we're after spots here too. Alabama River is famous for spotted bass.
That's an Alabama River bass right there.
Hey, these guys and Mike McClellan are really good at landing these fish, but Mike needed to get the fish a little closer to the rod tip. I think he got excited, Tommy, and lucked out. What he did, he got it in the boat. That's the main thing.
Someone else who had to witness that was Mike McClellan's co-angler partner. That was Bradley Dortch of Alabama. When we come back, we're going to see who the top 10 anglers are who make the cut to day number 3. And our new bass technology kicks in. It's going to let us track the movements of bass who live right here in the Alabama River. We can't wait to see what that looks like. Don't go away.
Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail, brought to you by Citgo. And in part by Purolator. Anheuser-Busch. Motor Guide.
We're back on the Alabama River. It's the Bassmaster Open Championship, the last shot at the Classic for the 90 pros who have qualified it. Well, 10 of those pros have made it to the start of today, day 3. We'll see who those 10 are as we look at our leaderboard right now. And remember, what happens today is very, very important. After today, they cut the field down to 5, and those 5 anglers are the ones who have qualified for the Citgo Bassmaster Classic. So much depends on what happens to you on day number 3. We look at the man on the bubble, Matt Reed, currently in 5th place. Less than a pound behind is Mark Menendez. Mark Menendez, an incredible story. He was sidelined by illness in mid-season, the 2005 Citgo Bassmaster Tour. He fought his way back, regained his health, worked back through the Southern Division, and here he stands on the verge of making the complete comeback. Mark Menendez.
And I'm not even looking at the top of your leaderboard, Tommy. I'm zeroed in on 5th and 6th place. That is Menendez and Reed. That's that last Classic spot. And Menendez is fishing exactly like Matt Reed was fishing. He's throwing a spinnerbait. Mark's down around the Tallahassee bar.
Never fish a tournament without a trailer hook. That will cost you a little headache sometimes as far as getting hung up, but on tough days, it'll reach over and get one more little bass that you might need.
Well, there you go, a look at Mark's spinnerbait, and you can see behind that first hook there is that second hook, or that trailer hook he's talking about. A second chance, really, for these anglers. That's what Mark is talking about. And Jerry, you can't buy your spinnerbait with the trailer hook already on there, but it's not hard to rig up, is it?
Yeah, and you have to remember that when a fish comes up and strikes his spinnerbait, he's got 3 possible targets. The skirt, possibly the head, and boy, this is what always happens. They hit these blades. So look at the areas that and the opportunities he has to miss this hook back here. So you can go to the store and pick up a little package of 3 or 4 trailer hooks. And this is a 2 or 3/0 straight shanked hook that, man, no big deal here. I'm going to put it on the existing hook. It is a trailer hook right now. Now you've got a much better chance of catching that fish. However, I'm not done here, because look, that could come off awfully easy. In that same little package, though, you're probably going to find a piece of surgical tubing, and you'll cut you off maybe a 1/2 inch of it and put it on the hook. And Tommy, I'm going to try to do this where everybody can see it and not put it in my finger at the same time.
Don't put it on yourself. Don't hook yourself.
So I've pushed it over the barb now, and now it is on again on the existing hook, and it does nothing to obstruct the hook that's actually in the bait, but it will not allow the trailer hook to come off or come any further up. So obviously now you've got you've got twice a
2 chances
chance to catch the fish. There he is.
Well, we got one in the boat. Boy, it took us a while. Ooh, trailer hook barely got him.
If we hadn't demonstrated that trailer hook, Mark may have never caught that fish. It's his first fish of the day, moves him into 5th place, and Tommy, we're taking credit for it.
I think I know what the name of the game is, guys, today. Cover water and get that spinnerbait moving.
Mark Menendez now installed in the top 5. We move on to John Murray, our Western Open qualifier, fishing the Jordan Dam Diversion Canal. Yesterday, it was a raging torrent coming out of there, but look at it today, barely a trickle, and he doesn't like it.
It probably seems like an auditorium to them when it's this calm. You know, every noise, every movement. You know, they're probably just sitting down there relaxing because they know when that current comes, they'll have to start working for their food. I don't know. I'm trying to work real slow, trying to figure out how to catch them. Go deep, go shallow. Tough times.
So far, everyone we've seen has been fishing a moving bait in shallow water, but John Murray and his non-boater Teb Jones are doing just the opposite. They're in 8 or 10 feet of water, bumping jigs off the bottom. John is growling about the fact that they won't turn the water on. What is wrong with those guys up at the dam? And hey, another strange landing job.
That was a gunwale and in, not gunwale and out. Very lucky. This was like entering a different planet up here. It was spinning whitewater rapids every day. And today to get here, it's just smooth and calm. Not a good combination. I might have to change techniques and do something, pull a rabbit out of the hat if I still want to make the Classic.
John Murray hanging in there in the top 5, but you can tell he's feeling the pressure. Got to stay in that top 5. Only the top 5 get to go on and fish the Classic after day number 3 is when we make that cut. Now, look at our new leaderboard. Some new names have joined the fray. Chad Brower, Randy Howell, they're all fighting for those top 5 places. Big battle going on day 3.
Well,
probably the biggest of the tournament. But the big news here on our show today is something new you've got. You've arranged for these fish who live in the Alabama River to be having tracking devices, and you can watch their movements. What have you got for us?
Well, okay, first of all, our playing field is in Catoma Creek, which is a dozen miles from the takeoff. It is fair game for the anglers to come in there. It just so happened not many guys fished in there, so we had it all to ourselves. We caught 3 fish 2 weeks before the tournament, and we turned them loose right back where we caught them and started tracking them from that point. 2 of them, a 3-pounder and a 2-pounder, were caught on the north side, went right back into the brush piles where we caught them. And, you know, I'm sorry to say that for the whole process here, they don't do a whole lot. They're boring, dull guys. But across the creek on an old stump, we caught a 6-pounder. He's the guy that's very interesting. We're going to call him Big Boy all day long. Again, 2 weeks before the tournament, he was right by that stump. But 1 week before the tournament, Narsider's in the same place. Big Boy decides that he will go out in the middle of the lake and go down the channel, around the point, and back into Antioch Creek, again in a brush pile. He went a half a mile away from that stump, and I do have to throw this out there, Tommy. The barometric pressure dropped below 30, dropped down to 29.84, and was falling.
Okay, is that why he moved? Because of the barometric pressure? Was it something else? The temperature change? Bait fish?
You know, I would think it would be bait fish. My first guess would be a school of bait fish come along there, and he just followed them on around to the point and then stayed in that brush pile. But let's look at the very next day where the barometric pressure rises again. It gets back up to 30.30, and it is rising, and I'll be doggone if he doesn't come all the way around that point again, and guess where he goes? Over to his stump.
To his stump. Well, what about the Northsiders? Why didn't these conditions affect them? Why didn't they move?
I tell you what, they are in really nice brush piles over there. Maybe there's plenty of feed over there. The river channel makes a little bend where they're at. Maybe they've got everything they need. We're going to keep looking, though. There's going to be some neat changes.
Well, that's a good reason to stick around. A lot more things. It may cause us to totally rethink the way we look at bass and how they move when they're in a water system. That's coming up. And also, well, we got some new names fighting for those top 5 positions right there on the bubble. Matt Reed and Mark Menendez. Something tells us one of those guys is going to the Classic. One's going home. Stick around and find out who. The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail, and this is the Bassmaster Open Championship. We started with 90 pros looking to make it into the all-important Bassmaster Classic. This tournament is their last chance, and on today, day 3 of this tournament, well, the top 5 finishers will indeed be Classic bound. Right now, as you look at our leaderboard, you can see that the man on the bubble is Matt Reed right there in 5th place. Trying to stay in that top 5, Mike McClellan has the commanding lead in the tournament so far. And just behind Matt Reed in 6th place is this man right here, Mark Menendez, who spent much of the season fighting illness. Right now, he's the man on the outside looking in, but he can make that comeback, make it all the way back into the Classic. What a story that will be. We talk about a great story. Let's take a look at another one of our top 10 here on day 3. Steve Kennedy from here in Alabama. Steve Kennedy would like to make it into the Classic for sentimental reasons. He was here on the Alabama River. He attended his first Classic at the age of 13, not just as a spectator, but because his dad was fishing in the Classic. What a great deal it would be for him to qualify for another one right here.
And I hate to one-up you, Tommy, but Pete Pons was in the original field of 90, and his father, Bob, was also in the Classic. Now Steve is fishing a Texas rig tube on what looks like a pretty bare bank, but I guarantee you there's some brush over there somewhere. And Steve is just like everybody else. He wants that Classic spot, but he better cut down on his mistakes if he wants to get there.
He got off. Oh. That's a 3 or 4 pounder.
Come on, Steve, we gotta have it. You know, this whole event is taking place in the shadows of Montgomery. Take off there at Cooter Pond Park. You can go up to Jordan Dam, go downstream 17 miles like Chad Brower's doing right here. And talk about fathers in the Classic. How about Chad Brower's father? A guy by the name of Denny Brower.
Quiet to catch him. You can't catch him underneath moving trains.
The fish right there is going to keep Chad Brower solidly in 3rd place, but nobody's safe till it's all over. Meanwhile, Mark Menendez was in the top 5, now hanging in there in 6th.
One more, baby. Need one more. Just 10 o'clock's all it is. Got plenty of time.
Sure seeing a lot of different lures and techniques today, which is kind of par for the course when you're on a river. Plus, no water flow. That's going to keep you switching and guessing. Mark Menendez is throwing a fluke right now, which is a 3-inch piece of plastic that fishes near the surface and kind of represents an injured minnow. Mark needs some fish now. He needs them bad. This is kind of a small guy right here. Still keeps him in 6th place, though.
Inching closer to Matt Reed. That's fish number 5 for Mark Menendez. Again, remember, Menendez contracted spinal meningitis mid-season in 2005, had to recover from that, and really the only way for him to get into the Classic was to fish the open divisions. He did that, won his first open division tournament on West Point Lake in Georgia, and look at him. He's all the way back here in the championship and just one fish away from making it to the Classic.
This little stretch right here has just been holding some fish. They're not big.
Maybe around small fish, but consider this. He's just ounces behind Matt Reed. If he can catch enough of them and upgrade his catch enough just by a few ounces, he can get himself into that 5th spot.
Mark Menendez has a limit of fish in his boat. This would be the 6th fish. If it weighs 2 ounces more than the smallest fish in the boat, he can turn the small one loose and pick up 2 ounces. That's how he's trying to catch Matt Reed, Tommy, ounce by ounce.
That'll work. That's a better one right there, boys. Now, I'll cull with those.
Well, that fish is going to be a good culling fish. That's going to provide him with enough ounces to, well, you can see it right there at 27 pounds, 8 ounces. He's tied with Matt Reed. Speak of the devil, look who's flying by right now. That's Matt Reed.
He's hurting. He's hurting. I ain't seen him down here all week.
Talking about Matt Reed right there, and he's saying if Matt Reed was out running around, he's not comfortable somewhere catching fish. He's hurting. So that gives a little jolt of confidence to Mark Menendez, trying to hang on to that 5th spot. Both those guys want desperately to go to the big dance in Florida here in a couple of weeks. Randy Howell may have secured his spot as we look at the leaderboard, and Mike McClellan's, well, his lead's been eaten into a bit as well. When we come back, we'll see who fills those final 5 slots, and our Bass Spotter, our fish tracking system, will have a few more major surprises for us. Don't go away. Welcome back to the Alabama River and the last shot at the big show for the 90 anglers who qualified for this Bass Open Championship. On the third day of competition, the field was cut down to 10 anglers, 10 survivors who would try to make it to the top 5. The final 5 would be qualified to fish the Citgo Bassmaster Classic. Remember, at the end of the day, Matt Reed and Mark Menendez were unofficially tied for that 5th spot. And at the weigh-in, Matt Reed would bring in 27 pounds, 9 ounces.
It's going to be close. I'm afraid I'm going to be 1 fish short, right, getting that top 5, but did all we could do.
Then Mark Menendez weighs in, and the tie is official. And here is the tiebreaker. Total fish caught. Menendez has caught 15. Matt Reed has caught 12. So Mark Menendez has made his comeback complete.
And my heart goes out to Matt Reed. I know how tough this is, but hats off to Mark Menendez. Boy, what a comeback. Wow, he is going to the Bassmaster Classic after everything he's been through.
You know, I'm just really thankful to be back in front of a bass boat out here casting to try to catch another bass after the Gunnersville incident where I contracted a pretty serious illness. I didn't know that I'd ever get to fish again. Then to get the open season started, I fell out of the Elite 50. I didn't get to finish the rest of the tour. So I jumped on the opens and got a great start by winning West Point right out of the gate. So that gave me a lot more motivation to get out here and to make the Classic. You know, I caught a fish yesterday about 1 o'clock, and I culled and gained an ounce. And that was the fish that got me tied with Matt Reed. I actually made it in a tiebreaker. I feel my heart's broken for Matt because we've all been in that situation. And the tiebreaker, I prevailed because I caught the most legal fish during the week. So it's just been a pretty neat week. I've made every Classic. This is my 4th Classic I'll be going to. I've made every Classic in the state of Alabama. If I wasn't such a UK Wildcat fan, I'd move to Alabama.
Well, Mark Menendez now with his slot in the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic secured. Fishes now, day 4 of this tournament for the Open Championship.
And Mark is about to put his first fish of the day in the boat, hopefully anyway. And it occurs to me that Mike McClellan has led this event wire to wire. But because Matt Reed and Mark Menendez have kind of hogged the headlines, we haven't seen much of Mike. I bet you we give him a lot of love in the second half of the show, though.
Yeah, that's pretty much right, Jerry. From this point on, hey, this tournament is about Mike McClellan. Mike McClellan, who, as you say, trying to be the first wire-to-wire victor since Kevin Van Dam last year in the Elite 50 Series, and $80,000 on the line. Winning the Open Championship is a pretty big deal. So, yes, we'll be watching Mike McClellan very closely, but I want to watch again these fish you're tracking with our Bass Spotter system. We got them in the Alabama River, tracking their every movement. What have you seen now?
Well, in order to do that, Tommy, I got to take you back down to Catoma Creek. You go back there, won't you?
I'm on. Let's go.
Remember, 2 weeks ago, we caught 3 fish, tagged them, are able to track them, and we started tracking them from that point. We had 2 Northsiders, a 3-pounder and a 2-pounder, that haven't done much during the whole ordeal here. Actually, the 2-pounder moved up the bank a little bit on this. Now we're 2 days before the tournament.
Yeah.
But the 6-pounder, he's the guy that goes back and forth and back and forth. The last time we saw him, he was on the stump out there in the creek, but now the barometric pressure has fallen again. It's 29.8. We got a real strong storm coming in that evening of that day, and so the barometric pressure did fall. He goes back around Antioch Creek and in his brush pile. That seems, he's got 2 places where he lives.
Yeah.
The stump and the brush pile.
And they're a half-mile apart.
And they're a half-mile apart, yeah. Okay, the air does drop now. Boy, it's 50 degrees out on the first day of the tournament. And all 3 of our fish stayed right where we saw them yesterday. Blue skies, high skies, wind out of the north. Barometric pressure now is 30.13 and steady. That's the first time it got at that point. He didn't come back to the stump. Okay, now that we are in the second day of the event and the air temperature is 37. 2 weeks ago it was 45 degrees. 1 week ago it was 72. Today it's 37. All of our fish are, well, they really are where we originally caught them. Even Big Boy is by his stump. However, Here's something kind of interesting. Big Boy couldn't be found for most of the day. Could have been our fault, I don't know. We couldn't find him. But about the middle of the day, he appears out of nowhere, and there he is by the regular old stump.
All right, we're going to see more on our bass spotter when we come back. And Mike McClellan, he just keeps the machine working here. Can anyone catch him? It is not over yet. Randy Howell, he's going to make a big charge too, so don't go away.
Oh, money, that's awesome. That line jumped. Golly.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail. You're watching the Open Championship from the Alabama River here, not too far from Montgomery. You're looking at the names of the 5 finalists, the anglers who are fishing on this final day of the tournament. 5 happy guys, to be sure, because they're the ones who have qualified for the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic. And there's the man who may be the happiest of all, Mark Menendez. Won a tiebreaker, got into this thing. Mark Menendez was come all the way back from a debilitating illness at the middle of the season in 2005 to claim a spot in the Classic. Almost unthinkable if you knew him back during last summer. But winning this one is a big deal as well. 80 grand on the line for the winner. Mike McClellan's been the man wire to wire so far, but he just can't seem to shake the Virginian Rick Morris. Who's making the big moves today? Well, this is one of the guys right here, no doubt about it. Randy Howell has a hot hand. He's fixing to get hotter as these final hours of fishing roll on.
There he is. Oh, yeah. Oh, big largemouth. Woo! Yeah! Golly! Look at that sucker. Woo! Praise the Lord. Oh, money, that's awesome. That line jumped. Golly. Hold on, boys. Oh. Good God. Oh, my God. That was awesome. I had that feeling this morning. Look at that big old long, that's long to my leg. Man. Oh, that is awesome. I just caught up a little bit. You think? That might be the pure later big bass of the day. Golly. That is a pretty bass. He ain't fat, but he'll weigh 5.5 at least. Might weigh 5 3/4.
Randy Howell back in 2004 won the very first Elite 50 tournament, largely on the basis of a great final day. He may have that script in his hand today. He's looking to pick up the win here. Now over to Chad Brower, who's dealing with some drastic changes in the water level.
Hey, talk about sucking the water out of a place. I bet it's down over a foot from yesterday. I guarantee it's down 18 inches from when I was in here 2 days ago.
Well, there are river bass fishermen and reservoir bass fishermen, and most of our real good anglers know how to approach each system. On a reservoir, you're talking about no current, more depth, grass beds, flats, etc. On the river, you are talking about current and water levels. And all these different situations position the bass differently, and the good guys like Chad Brower have figured it out.
What a long wait for the first bite.
Chad Brower, of course, we all know who his teacher was, his dad, the great Denny Brower, the greatest ever maybe with the flipping stick and the jig or tube in his hand. You got some jigs for us here, Jerry.
And when you're fishing around some stumps and laydowns in 2-3 feet of water, what better way to fish for these bass than to drop a jig on top of them? And Denny and Chad are the best at that, as you said. Chad is using about a 1/2 ounce Strike King jig, and he's putting a chunk on it. And he slides the chunk over the hook, gets it in place underneath the rattle chamber. And you can kind of hear it. It's got a little bit of a noise here, but take a look at that. If that isn't a crawdad-looking guy, I can't imagine what would be. Now, actually, the last fish I believe that Chad caught was on a tube, and here are the tubes that he's fishing. And, you know, you fish them the exact same way as a jig, very slowly in around the cover and the brush and the stumps and so on. I think that a tube falls a little slower, and that's why it's more attractive at times. Now then, Rick Morris, I think, is using a black and blue jig.
Right. He's been fishing a spinnerbait, but right now he's tied on the jig.
Well, I feel pretty good, but, you know, there's a chance to win here. We got plenty of time. It can happen quick, too. I've had a couple stretches times during a tournament where I've caught 2 3-pounders in 10 minutes. Or it can just be one here, one there. I'm in the area that I can win. If I don't, and it got me to the Classic. So it was a good area, it was a good choice. In second place right now, I'd say it was a good area.
Mr. Bass Fisherman, here's a good tip for you. Fish upstream. Rick Morris is flipping a jig over against the bank around the laydowns and the stumps, but he's doing it by going upstream. You are twice as efficient going upstream as you are drifting down.
Rick Morris trying to catch this man, Mike McClellan. Mike McClellan, he's only been back in fishing for the last year and a half or so. Had a personal tragedy back in 2002, caused him to leave the sport for a couple of years.
And Mike is on a winning pattern, I think. Find a productive area. Find it close to home. Find out everything you can about it and homestead it. That's what Mike's doing. Mike is 10 minutes from the takeoff.
Basically what I found right here on this stretch of bank is this is where the channel swings from the opposite side of the river over to this bank, and it only touches it for probably about 150, 200 yards, and then it actually swings back to the other side. While there's current flowing, any bait fish, you know, bass, whatever, are going to position themselves right here in this little flow area, because what happens is you get an eddy created, and it gives the fish a place to rest. When the water's not running like it is today, the fish can basically just, you know, they can go out and cruise in the middle of the river if they want to, and that's basically what they're doing right now. They're following the shad, feeding up, you know, for winter months. So, you know, them being here is simply a matter of some bait fish being here and just, you know, good ambush points for them to eat.
Well, Jerry, you said at the top of the show, to win this tournament, a guy's got to have a plan that includes current and includes loss of current. Looks like Mike's got that.
Yeah, and Mike kind of showed us what he did when there was some current coming down the old river, but now there is no current. So the fish that might have been out there in the eddy, might have been out there chasing shad, will normally always suck back to the brush and to the cover and the places where he really feels safe. And you know, our bass spotter showed us that these fish don't get very far away from that cover unless there seems to be some bait in the area, and then they'll venture away from it.
Well, Mike McClellan from Bella Vista, Arkansas, certainly trying to complete his own sort of comeback. We mentioned this just a moment ago, had a great personal tragedy back in 2002. His ex-wife and his daughter were both killed in a tragic auto accident. He had to quit the fishing game then, sort of get himself together, heal as best you can under those terrible, terrible circumstances, but he has done it. He's got his head back together. He is back in the game. Boy, if he could put it together enough to win this tournament, Jerry, what a great comeback that would complete for him.
Mike's a winner. He proved it back in '96 with back-to-back wins, and I'm happy for Howell and Menendez and Brower and Morris, but boy, you have to be pulling for Mike McClellan.
That's the ones we need. 5 of them and we'll be in good shape.
Back to Mike's closest pursuer, Rick Morris.
Man, there's bait everywhere. We should get a bite.
Fish everywhere, and it seems to me like there's more current for Rick. There is. You know what? He's in the really heavy part of the river. There's a point, maybe even an island above him that is diverting the water, splitting the water, and making that current a little bit more intense by the time it hits his boat.
The rumor going around the tournament is that he's been using twice as many batteries as anyone else, so the current theory is probably right there, Jerry. Can Mike McClellan continue to hold off Rick Morris? And we'll also get our bass spotter technology out again and see what these fish we've been tracking have been doing the last couple of days of this tournament. So much more to come, but don't go away. You're watching the Bassmaster Open Championship on the Alabama River. The open divisions are just one cut below the very highest level, the elite level of Bassmaster fishing. This is their championship, and on this fourth and final day of competition, let's look at the leaderboard and look at the 5 anglers who are remaining. Mike McClellan, Rick Morris, Chad Brower, Mark Menendez, and Randy Howell. Those are 5 very happy anglers because at this point, they've already qualified to fish in the 2006 Citgo Bassmaster Classic. Now we got the rest of the tournament. We got to decide who's the winner of the Open Championship. $80,000 on the line. Mike McClellan, can he hold off Rick Morris? Maybe Randy Howell as well. We're going to decide that here in just a little bit. But right now, I want to go back to our bass spotter technology, Jerry. It's been fascinating to watch the travels of these bass that you're tracking, that you released back into Catoma Creek.
And Catoma Creek is where we've been having all this fun. We caught these 3 fish 2 weeks before the tournament, and we've been tracking them ever since. Now then, The third day of the tournament, we look at the two smaller bass, a 3-pounder and a 2-pounder, and we've been calling them the Narsiders because they stay on the Nar side, and that's what they're doing this time. They move up and down that bank a little bit, but they're, as we said earlier, no offense, guys, but they're kind of boring. Big Boy on the other side here, he's the guy, and he has, on this particular day, moved from his stump, probably moved 700 feet over to the point that separates Antioch Creek with our main creek. And that's the first time he didn't go all the way around that point and into Antioch. He stayed right there on that point. Now then, let's go to the last day of the tournament. I got a real surprise for you. The Narside gang swapped bushes. Yes, the 2-pounder went into the 3-pounder's bush and vice versa, and I cannot tell you why they did that. I would always say, well, maybe it had something to do with their feed, but you know, there ought to be a little bit of food around there for both of them, but they did swap places. Big Boy is back to his stump. The interesting thing about this particular day is that a boat ran over him. Not one of our anglers, just another boat.
Right over top of him.
Just right next to him, and he didn't budge. He didn't seem to care at all. However, throughout all of this, the most interesting thing happens to Big Boy 5 days after the tournament.
Hang on to that. We're going to hold that for our last bit. We're going to tell everybody about it because I know what you're talking about. We'll hold that and we'll share that with you before we leave. Right now, we got to get back out to the tournament on the Alabama River. Good thing that Randy Howell didn't know where Big Boy was because Randy Howell, by far, has the hottest hand today.
Hey, what? That's some big old good feeling rock or something right there. A little hole or something. I ain't hit it this week because I didn't catch one in practice on it, but it's always running water. And I notice a lot of fish live around it. It's full of bait. So I know big spots live here. There he is too. Oh, it's a good one. Oh yeah. Come on, baby, be a bass. Oh, it is, a big spot. Big spot. Come on, Lord. Yes, Lord, this is a big old spot. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh man. Pretty spot. Oh, come on, baby. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on. Come on, Lord. Let me get this one in. Yeah. Woo. Look at that spot. That's a spot, Daddy boy. Oh, mighty, I love it. He ate my little red hook. Oh, put the death grip on him. I'm just glad I changed Band-Aids. Look at that. Now that is a big old Alabama River, Coosa River spot. That's what you come down here for. Woo.
That's what you come down there for, all right? Tommy, I would walk down there to catch a spotted bass.
You like the big spots,
oh,
don't you?
Man.
Well, back over to Mark Menendez. He probably thinks the miracle has already happened for him this week, and in effect it has. Remember, Mark Menendez was felled by illness mid-season last year. No one would have thought there was any way he could get to the Classic, but he's gone into the open divisions, fished all the way to this championship, and excelled here. And that's what has got him among the 5 who have qualified for the Citgo Bassmaster Classic here. And he fishes on, trying to win the whole open championship, although it looks now he's swapped up his techniques, Jerry.
He's been fishing all over the place, hasn't he? Well, he is throwing a crankbait right now, and Randy Howell was throwing a crankbait. As a matter of fact, Randy Howell was calling his shot.
Big.
He was talking about fishing it around a rock. And Mark Menendez, I guarantee you, is doing something similar. He is throwing that crankbait around a lay down, a rock, a point, something. These guys are good at finding those places.
Looks like another keeper for Mark Menendez right there. All right, back over to Rick Morris. He's the man pursuing our leader, Mike McClellan. Currently, he's 1.5 pounds behind McClellan. He's got to fish hard. He's running out of time. Needs to make something happen and happen quickly.
You know, we see these guys casting and catching and moving around a lot because that's all the time we have, actually. But you can assure yourself these guys have worked hard getting in a position to catch a fish like that. Tommy, man, he just jumped in the lead.
That's a spotted bass now, baby.
Woo!
Great fish for Rick Morris, and with that fish, he takes the 1.5 pound lead over Mike McClellan. But we go back over to McClellan. We see him doing what he's been doing each and every day of this tournament, catching 1.5 pound fish after 1.5 pound fish.
And you know, he's caught a few fish on a spinnerbait, even caught a few on a little Bandit crankbait, but most of them are coming from a half-ounce jewel jig in a Zoom Super Chunk trailer.
With that flurry of bass, Mike McClellan is back in the lead again. Each and every day of this tournament, he catches his limit of fish. Any angler will tell you that's one of the keys to winning out here.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that'd come up through here and they'd want to get right in the heart of that tree right off the bat, but I mean, there's a lot of stuff out around this tree. You know, you miss every opportunity you got to catch some of the outer fish if you just bail in there right off the bat and get on top of them. So just take my time and sit here and look at it and hope to catch one out here and then slide in there and catch one, hopefully.
Mike McClellan been using this technique all day and is certainly paying off for him. This fish right here, he will cull with this. That'll give him a 1.5 pound lead over Rick Morris unofficially. We're going to make it official, though. We're about to head back to the weigh-in, and also we'll have one more look at our Bass Spotter technology, one more surprising move by one of our tracking fish. Don't go away.
The Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail is brought to you by Citgo and in part by Toyota, Mercury Marine, and Lowrance.
Well, the weigh-in is underway for the 2005 Citgo Bassmaster Open Championship in Prattville, Alabama. And after non-boater winner William Beekman of New York is recognized, Mark Menendez is the first of 5 pro finalists to the stage. For him, yesterday was the big day. He pulled off the most improbable comeback from an early season illness to make the final 5 and punch his ticket to the Citgo Bassmaster Classic. But today was a bit of a letdown. 3 fish, 3 pounds, and he knows why.
As many years as I've been doing this, I learn something all the time. Every time that I'm fishing a tournament, that I should have looked for something that was not current related. And that's what the guys in the top 4 behind me all did. They had current fish, and then they had areas they could go and fish for fish that weren't relating to the current.
Randy Howell has had the best day of all the finalists, a 12-pound, 15-ounce limit, but just had too far to climb. No doubt in his mind, though, what the fish of the day was.
I went back here to this golf course pier and flipped my jig under there, and that line jumped, and I set the hook in that 5-pounder, and that got me fired up. When you see it on TV, that's probably the most excited I've ever been over a 5-pounder. I don't know what got me so fired up about him, but I got
$70,000 might have had a little influence over it.
Chad Brower is going to the Classic, and surprisingly, his dad, Denny, is not. Chad has performed well this week. 41 pounds, 15 ounces over 4 days. It's good enough for 3rd place overall.
I really enjoy this water, this fishery, because it really suits my style. There's a lot of flipping water. There's a lot of shallow, heavy cover, and you know, all I can ask for is to have that available to me everywhere we go, and I'm happy.
Rick Morris, truly the only serious threat to leader Mike McClellan. A day of mixed results for Morris, but he's taken the bad with the good and the big with the small. But at the scale, something doesn't seem just right.
6 pounds, 14 ounces. Bingo.
I think the scales are wrong.
You think they're wrong?
Yeah, something's wrong, because that big fish is 5 pounds. I don't know.
Well, we could weigh them again. 614. We'll weigh them both, all 3.
It's kind of one of those situations where you leave the drive-thru and you don't have what you ordered.
Get a little excited.
Except Rick's ride almost gets away from him with what could be the winning fish.
You just made it, Rick. Hot dang. You've never done that in all the years I've known you.
No, never.
Now, 4 in all, 8 pounds, 6 ounces, and one more angler left to go. It's Mike McClellan going for the wire-to-wire win at the Open Championship. We know he's got a limit. If they could just average just over a pound apiece, he's got it.
7 pounds.
Mike McClellan moves back to the top of the food chain, baby, and claims his first win since 1996.
Mike McClellan, 4 days, 4 limits, 46 pounds, 9 ounces, is the Open champion. It's been a long time between wins for Mike and some troubled time away from the sport, but this is a great comeback. He's happy for a lot of reasons.
Ray Scott was the man up here on stage when I won my first 2 events, and when my wife and I married, she found a picture of Ray and I from my very first tournament victory, and it is still hanging on my refrigerator to remind me what it's like to be up here. And I just want to thank Ray for being here. I mean, you know, things happen for a reason, and I think it's great, Ray. Thanks.
Well, you're going to have another picture for the other side of the fridge, and hopefully now you don't have to have them 9 years apart after this. You can tighten it up a little bit if you want. You be okay with that?
I'll be perfectly fine tightening them up.
Mike McClellan putting the capper on his comeback that really started about 3 years ago, and Mark Menendez, his comeback started at mid-year, and he's made it all the way back to the Citgo Bassmaster Classic.
And how about Randy Howell?
Yeah.
He wasn't expecting to go to the Bassmaster Classic, and here he is right in the middle of it. And I have to say that Matt Reed not making it breaks my heart.
So many great stories from this Open Championship. Another guy we need to recognize is Doug Garrett, 7 pounds and 12 ounces. He wins the Pure Later Big Bass for the tournament, and Mike McClellan, again, his first day weight, 17 pounds, 12 ounces. He's the first man to qualify for the year-ending Bush Shootout. Congratulations to all those guys. And one more time now, we're going to take a look at our incredible Bass Spotter technology. This has been amazing. Our 3 bass, we've had the instruments on. We've tracked their movements for 2 weeks. We've had 1 big bass, 2 smaller ones. The 2 smaller ones kind of home bodies. This big guy has been moving around, but 6 days after the tournament, he did something amazing.
6 days after the tournament, again, the Northsiders stayed right at home in their brush piles. Big boy went 5 miles up Katoma Creek, 5 miles from his stump up that creek. The last time we checked him, he was in about 8 feet of water, hanging right on the original channel up that creek. So whenever that barometric pressure was falling, again, it was falling when we checked him. It was 29 and falling. He was on the move. Hey, this has been a lot of fun. I don't know if we've proved anything. Doggone, it's good watching these guys. So, and we're going to do it all through the Elite Series. So when it's all over, you and I will have so much knowledge that we will, well, Van Dam and Hackney and them, they'll be null and void.
Bet on that. We'll have all the knowledge. Another thing you can count on is the fact that the Citgo Bassmaster Classic from Lake Tahoe, Kissimmee, Florida, coverage starts right here in less than 2 weeks, February 24th. And next week at this time, we'll have our Road to the Classic show. That's going to be a lot of fun. Zona's going to be in here. We're going to have everything for you, all the great stories that led up to this special group of anglers who are going to fight it out at the Classic.
Plus, our picks for the Classic winner. You would not want to miss that.
No, you wouldn't want to miss that. Heaven forbid. It's all going to be great. Next week at this time, the Road to the Classic on the Citgo Bassmaster Tournament Trail. We'll see you then.
This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sport.
That'll make this a very...
For more, log on to Bassmaster.com.
I had that feeling this morning. Look at that big old line.